Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Hi there. Welcome to our show. I'm Luann Fulmer. Today we're talking about something that hits people right in the gut, and that's the fear of running out of money in retirement. There's a new USA Today report that says about 3/4 of Americans fear outliving their savings more than they fear death. And that's kind of a stunning number. Eric Heckman is here to fill us in on what could be driving these fears. I do want to start off, though, with his phone number, because if being afraid of running out of money, is familiar to you, then it's probably time for you to get some help from a team like Heckman Financial, a team that you can trust. Set up this complimentary appointment. All you have to do is call this number, or you can text the number too. If you just text the word visit, and the number is 800-454-1184. So Eric, why has this fear become so powerful for so many people?
Yeah, well, it's definitely, you hear it all the time when I meet with people, for sure. And, once upon a time, people had pensions, right? And those are pretty much gone unless you work for government or, sometimes education and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, besides that, it's just, people are living longer and it's all on you. Used to have the pension manager would run that money. Now it's like, oh, you get a 401k and you get to be responsible for it and your IRAs, right? And if you screw this up, it's all on you.
It's all on you.
Right? So that's a little brutal. So yeah, I think that's something that people should be worried about, but probably more importantly, they need to have a plan for it.
So true. Yeah, that written plan, that's what we always talk about on our show. Now, I got to tell you, I want to get into healthcare. My brother-in-law was looking at assisted living for my sister, and he couldn't believe the prices every month, like, $7,000 a month. And across the country, the average assisted living fee a month is $6,200, okay? So how does that one number change this whole retirement conversation?
Yeah, well, that's in cheaper parts of the country than the Bay Area. So,
right.
So it's probably, a little bit more like 8 to 10 here. And,
oh my gosh.
And so, that's one of those things that, if it's the second person of a married couple, the surviving spouse, I don't think it's as super critical, as devastating. But the really, really bad one, I think, is when that first spouse gets ill and could be, 3, 4, 5 years potentially of paying that money out. And then that healthy spouse may live another 15, 20, 25 years after that. And if they've lost $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in that first, few years of retirement, that's one of those things where you have to really go, okay, well, how's that other person going to, be able to get by? And that's when the fear of running out of money is going to be really high.
Sure. Yeah. That scares me. It scares me so much. And, so many of us haven't planned for this, and we've got to plan for it. Another major source of fear, of course, is Social Security. We talk about this a lot. If Congress doesn't do anything, then retirees could potentially face about a 30%, or I should say 1/3 cut in monthly benefits by 2032. So what should people do with that information right now, Eric?
Yeah, no, that one's pretty scary because this number hasn't really changed since I got into the business 30 years ago. It's always been around, the early 2030s, as high as 2035, I think. But, it's not an investment problem. It's not anything type of problem. It's just a demographics. There are too many people retiring for how many people work. And so,
yes,
it's something we've all known. And our elected leaders don't care about doing much of anything. And some even say they don't even care about the Americans' financial situation. So it's crazy that that we're just kind of heading down this path. And, it used to sound like a long time ago, a long time from now, I should say, right? And we're talking 6, 7, 8 years,
Right.
so depending on which numbers you're using, yeah, this thing is right around the corner and it's going to have to be an emergency fix. So who knows what they're going to do? I mean, theoretically, they shouldn't take people's money who's about to retire or are retired, but there may be a point where it gets the no other choice and they might have to. So, again, that's something where it doesn't mean necessarily turn it on now, but if you're close to it, you might think about it. But, I think the bigger thing is, how are you going to make up that other money? And, what have you done? Have you built that income plan? Do you know how you're going to get that money? Are you just totally self-insuring for long-term care, or have you set aside some of those dollars to double or triple for long-term care for you? There's lots of options out there, but it's just really always comes down to that 4-letter word, plan. And, you got to have that plan. So that's one of the things that we do here at Heckman Financials. We help people get that plan. So one thing we've set up is a really cool digital toolbox that, has some stuff like, will my money last as long as I do? Social Security timing decision, both items we just talked about. Copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even a way to set a time to talk with us here at Team Heckman. So all you got to do is text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
And we thank you so much for joining us today. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. If you're just joining us, I'm talking with Eric about the growing fear of running out of money in retirement. So, Eric, one thing people could consider is delaying Social Security. And I want to know what you think. Is that really a good idea?
It sometimes can be. It depends on your situation. But obviously right now we've got the unique problem of it being close to running out of money, or having not running out of money, but having a benefit cut, right? And, and so that's one of the issues there. And, but I think the more important one is really running it inside a customized income plan for your specific situation. And having taxes, having inflation, everything, your exact spending in there. And when I do that, I would say at least 2/3 of the time, it actually makes more sense for people to start sooner than later.
Oh my.
Yeah. So, because they'll actually have higher net worth at 80 or 90 if they start their Social Security sooner. They may get less Social Security dollars, but they'll have more money in the bank. Obviously, that's more critical. That's stuff you can leave behind. That's stuff you can go grab. You can't just go grab more Social Security dollars. You can't leave those behind. And so, so a lot of times it is sooner. Now you have to watch out, because if you're still working, you don't want to turn it on and pay it all back because you're having that working penalty. So if you're before your full retirement age, which for most people is 67, then there's some other complications. But again, that's why you need that custom plan.
Sure. Now, statistically, only a small percentage of Americans actually do retirement planning regularly. Okay. About 1/3 do work with a financial advisor. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, sometimes maybe you don't need it. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, I mean, you could definitely help. It could definitely help you out by working with somebody. But it might be a little less critical. I think the most critical time is that time when you're getting close to retirement. That's who we specialize in working with. People mostly in their late 50s, early 60s, are typically really starting to think about that. They may get laid off into retirement. That's happening a lot. So, so no matter how it starts, but that's the time frame where, you really need to start talking to somebody. You really need to figure out, what's going on and what should I be doing with my money, and how am I going to get this money back out, and how am I going to live for the rest of my life? What we were talking about today, right?
Exactly. All right. So for someone listening or watching right now, tell us what can a strong professional retirement strategy actually look like?
Yeah, well, it answers the biggest question of, will I be okay? Will my money last? And will I be okay? Will that money be there for me? And which pot of money should I take first? How can I lower my lifetime tax bill? How can I lower some of the volatility in the market and still make sure I have that money? How can I have something that's guaranteed that won't go away in those down markets, so I can survive those in retirement? Those are all things that we help you answer. And again, we've got a lot of those tools in their digital toolbox. You can go grab those for free. All you have to do is text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox 800-454-1184 or click the link below.
Would you rather pay more or less in taxes? If you want to pay more, don't do anything. If you want to pay less, talk to Eric Heckman to see what's possible for you. 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. When we think about risks to retirement, it's natural to focus on the big dramatic market downturns, right? Like those we've seen in the past and we're going to see in the future, of course. But those are not the only threats. The looming possibility of higher taxes, persistent inflation, and other challenges all contribute to the very real fear of outliving our savings. So, Eric, with so many risks coming from every direction, tell us how retirees can stay ahead of these challenges.
Yeah, well, there's some stuff you can't, really do anything about, right? Inflation's not something that you can control or, get a say-so in. So it's just a matter of making sure you account for it. So in your planning, make sure that that money is going up over time. You would not want to, if you're working right now, you would not want to be making what you made 20 years ago, most likely. And same thing in retirement. You don't want to be 20 years into retirement and making the same thing you were 20 years earlier because, just won't be as good, right? And so that's one of the things that you have to do. The other one is just really having an income plan. The income plan is really the key because once you look at that income plan, you can say, okay, well, which bucket of money should I take money out of first? Like I've got a client who's about to retire here in April, and he's a pretty high up guy at Apple. And so he's been making lots of good money for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But in next year, he won't be on Social Security. He won't be getting the big stock options or anything like that anymore. So, his income probably won't be low, but his income will be lower. And so, now we can do some other stuff, some tax planning. But as we go along, once you have Social Security coming in, then you get more income. And then, of course, when you're having to take money out of your retirement accounts, even if you don't need it, then you even have more income. So, you got to plan for when those income time periods are lower and grab some of that and pay some taxes then, right? When it's low. But most people will do the exact opposite. They'll say, oh, no, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till later, let it defer, and ouch.
Right. Yeah. So taxes, they're a huge concern for people. And then, you look at our national debt, where we are now, we know it's going to affect us somehow. I mean, taxes are going to have to go up, I would think.
Well, yeah. I mean, that you can kind of try to pretend in some sort of a Pollyannish world that you can just cut costs to the point where, there's somehow you're not going to spend any money, but that's not how the federal system's set up. I mean, more than the entire economy, the amount that that we get from all the taxes, all the revenue. So think of it as if this was you and your household income, meaning for the country, isn't even enough to cover the interest on the debt, Social Security, Medicare.
Oh my.
So the cost of the government's on top of all that.
Right.
So that's like saying your spendings, you're doing all the spending, but your mortgage is on top of that. Well, that's not good, right? You're going to be going backwards. So, that's one thing that anytime you hear any politician trying to either preserve tax cuts or give you more tax cuts, that they're cutting income. They're lowering their revenue. And then that means that they're putting it on that credit card, the national debt credit card. Mm-hmm. And history shows us throughout civilizations that, once countries get a lot of debt and stuff, that's what makes them crumble. That's what can really cause issues. So that's one thing to be worried about because of, taxes cannot go down. Realistically, I mean, we have to at some point pay the bills, and whether or not that's a small thing or something sudden where nobody wants to buy our debt anymore, and it gets to be a huge issue. So that's why you really want to have a plan. You want to know, okay, how can I lower my taxes today? How can I lower my taxes? Really, the bigger question should be, how do I lower over my lifetime? And that's the question people don't ask enough. And so when we're meeting with people and we're talking to people and we're helping them with that income plan. We go through that blueprint to worry less wealth, where we figure out, where's that income going to come from? Will it last for the rest of their life? Hopefully, yes. And then beyond that, how is that money invested? Is it going to be able to put off that income? What are the tax ramifications? So income, investments, taxes, all very interdependent. And then healthcare issues, who gets your money, legacy issues when you're gone. Those are the 5 areas that you have to have a plan for. And that's what we do in the blueprint to worry less wealth, and something we can help you with. And so what we've done is we've actually set up a lot of educational materials for people for, just a quick read. So you can read about a 10-page thing about making sure your money lasts as long as you do, the Social Security timing decisions. Are you paying too much taxes in retirement? All these really critical things to know about. You can have a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even set up a time to talk with me, Eric Heckman. So all you got to do, super easy, just text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. And so we're talking today about, tackling the threats of taxes and inflation, among other things, in our retirement. Let's talk about steps that retirees can actually take right now to prepare for future tax increases. What are you helping your retirees with?
Well, yeah, one of the big ones is doing Roth conversions. So what does that mean? A lot of times people don't fully get that. That's when you're choosing to pay taxes even though you don't have to. Ouch, right? Nobody wants to do that.
Right.
And so why would somebody be crazy enough to do that? Well, if you're in a lower bracket now and you can pay that tax today, we're not talking $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 Roth conversions. We're talking 20 to 50. We're talking smaller dollar numbers. So you pay the taxes today. That not only does that now get rid of the tax for the rest of your life, but all the tax on that growth is gone for the rest of your life too. So that can be a huge amount of money depending on when you're doing it, how early you're doing it. And what we find is that it really, really makes a huge difference in somebody's lifetime income, how they're getting that money. The other thing too is making your other money tax efficient. And so this is something that I find a lot of people also don't pay attention to. And what I'm talking about there is like I had some clients that had inherited some money, and so they left a lot of it in CDs and bank accounts. And, it was from dad, and they didn't want to take a lot of risk with it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when we were looking at how much taxes that was causing them, and this is not money they're using, this is not money they need, it's just sitting in the bank, literally. So, but it was causing them to jump up into the next tax bracket even. And so if you can make that money also more tax efficient with your taxable dollars, then you're going to pay a lot less in tax. So again, most people, most financial advisors, they say, oh, well, we don't do tax advice. And then talk to the tax person, well, we don't do financial advice. And so nobody's getting this advice. So it's really awful. So yes, taxes have to be a key component of your planning.
So one of the things that is kind of nerve-wracking is that Congress could change the rules at any time, right? So we've got to plan for higher taxes. But that kind of feels like, we have no idea what to expect. So how are you helping your clients prepare for future taxation when it's unpredictable?
Yeah, no, definitely a good question. And, it's something where it's like you're playing Monopoly and then all of a sudden you're not supposed to buy this place, or you can buy this place, or, all of a sudden the stack of cards are different. And how do you keep playing this game if the rules keep changing? But just be used to it, right? It's just going to be always the case. So really what we do with people is just making sure that they can have as much money as tax efficient. So doing stuff with Roth, doing stuff with, especially designed life insurance, other things that can be tax-free, even just making things more tax efficient. So it's really just focusing on that and knowing that every 3 to 5 years, the rules of the game are going to change and we're going to have to get back together and figure that out. But, again, that's why we have stuff like, are you paying too much in taxes in retirement, set up in the digital toolbox. So if you want to grab a copy of that, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio. That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
Hi, I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial right here in Silicon Valley. In 2022, inflation soared to a 9.1%. That's the highest level since 1981. It hit everybody hard. But for retirees, it's more than just a pinch. It can threaten their financial confidence. So I want to get into inflation right now, Eric, and let's talk about why it poses such a uniquely significant problem for retirees.
Well, really, when you're working, hopefully you get raises,
Yeah.
right? And if you're on Social Security, you did get a big raise after that, after 2022, right, with that huge increase. But then of course Medicare rate went up, groceries went up, all these other things go up, right? So that's one of the tough things is if you have a static income and all these things are going up and get more expensive, then you're staying even while everything else is going up past you, and that's not a trajectory you want to be on for a long period of time, right? So you need to have that planned into your financial plan of having that money, get bigger, have it, increase it a little bit each year, and just know it's going to happen. There's going to be always little spikes. I mean, that one was all pretty much because of COVID. The government, the Fed printed a ton of money and to get us all out of that downturn, and that worked, except for anytime they do that, that causes inflation. It was kind of like we knew that would happen.
I know, yeah.
So that's one of the things that you have to do is just really make sure that's part of your plan.
Can you give us some specific strategies that retirees could use for inflation?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if you get Social Security, you do get a little bit of a increase there. If you're lucky enough to have a regular pension, most of those don't go up, but there's not many of those left, right? So the other part can really be is just making sure you have some other guaranteed lifetime income. So you want to have some money that you can basically with insurance companies nowadays, in essence, create your own pension. And if you have something like that where you've got some guaranteed money coming in, then you can use things like dividends, stock growth, hopefully, other things that you can use to offset those costs. But if you don't have a good base of income and then you're having to cash in more stuff, that can be not a good thing long term, right? Because then you're cashing in that principal, and that can eat up your money faster. So having it be part of your plan and having, like for us, we always have some money in foundational money, some stuff that's guaranteed. So that way you always have that money there, no matter what the markets are like, what the economic conditions are like, you've got some money that you can take out. Obviously, you have the market money, but in between, we always have about 10 to 20% steady income. And this is stuff that pays good dividends. It's got low volatility. And again, that's why you want to have that there, is because if things get more expensive and you got cash flow coming in, it makes life a lot easier.
So taxes, inflation, managing investments, that's a lot to handle. What should people be looking for when they're trying to find someone to guide them through all these complexities?
Yeah, well, I see a lot of people turning to software programs, websites, and I mean, most of all the major brokerage houses have some, some site that says, "Oh, what's your money going to do?" But it's very, very basic kind of math, and it's not rooted in reality, unfortunately. So life isn't so linear that those little programs can work, and I don't think AI is going to be able to handle this quite yet. And because there's a lot of nuanced, types of things in there. So I would say the first thing, anytime somebody's looking for a financial advisor, well, first of all, do you need one? And, if you've never retired before, which most people haven't.
So, that's true.
I would say it would be good not to mess it up and to have some help there. At least talk to somebody, because I always love the phrase, you don't know what you don't know, and, till somebody tells you, right? Until you know it. So you may not even know what you're missing or what you're not even paying attention to. Little things like too much income can cause your Medicare premiums to go up. Very rarely ever find anybody who knows about that, except for the people who got hit with it after the fact.
Yeah.
So they didn't know about it beforehand, typically. And then the other thing too is what type of advisor is that? Is that somebody who works with everybody? Because, if they're working with 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and you're in your 60s going to retire, very, very different type of, approach for those age timeframes, right? So, really, like for us, we only work with pretty much people doing that shift from working life to retirement, usually late 50s, early 60s is when we have our clients, start working with us. But the other critical thing is when you go to retire, you can pick your tax bracket. Sounds weird. I know. How do you pick your tax? Can't I just pick the lowest one? But you pick the tax bracket by which buckets of money you take money out of. So if you take money out of your savings, well, there's not much of a tax there. Take money out of your IRA, 401k, oh, there's a lot of tax there. So most people say, oh, they pick the one that has the least tax until I have to take all these taxable dollars. And then guess what? You go from 10 to 24% bracket and you're wondering, how did I end up paying 140% more in taxes? Well, that's because you didn't have advice. And so that's why we're here, really, is to help people, formulate that plan, not just investments, but taxes all intermingled together, because taxes, income, and investments, you cannot separate those three. And then, healthcare issues, if you're trying to retire pre-65, how are you going to pay for it? Post-65, what are the rules there? And then, of course, long-term care, and then who gets your stuff, legacy issues. So one of the great things we've set up is this digital toolbox. It's a really great resource where it's got a lot of different things like how to empower women investors, Social Security timing decisions, how to make your money last as long as you do, and are you paying too much money in tax in retirement? It's also got a digital copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and you can set a time and talk with me, Eric Heckman. So all you got to do is super easy. Text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
So we've been talking about how inflation and taxes can erode retirement savings. So Eric, tell us how you actually address these specific risks with your clients to help preserve their financial future. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So, one thing we already talked about, I think, was just making sure that income keeps going up.
Right.
You don't want to retire what you made 20 years ago and, and keep it the same number. You want to still be able to go off, have fun, because, hey, you got 7 days a weekend, not 2 anymore.
That's
right.
Right.
So that'd be one thing. And then, really look at tax efficient strategies for your regular dollars. So I'm talking about, non-IRA stuff. So your brokerage account, your bank savings accounts, how can we make those less taxable and, stretch those dollars even longer? And, of course, taxes is a risk that you're going to always have if they go up. So if we can make some of that money tax-free for the rest of your life, it's going to even help even beyond. So yeah, you got to have that part of the plan.
So Eric, this type of planning is something that you could offer our listeners as well, right?
No, exactly. So yeah, if you're somebody who's, in their 50s, 60s, trying to figure out, even your 70s, if you're already retired, you're trying to figure out how to make this all work, how to lower your taxes, how do you make sure that money lasts for the rest of your life? Yeah, all you have to do is, you can set up a time to meet with us, and in our digital toolbox, or just get a lot of that great information and then, talk to us after that. But all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com. This is Eric Heckman. I'm excited to share a sneak peek of a movie I co-produced, The Psychology of Retirement.
Who are the baby boomers?
If I had to describe the baby boomer generation in one word, it would be independent.
To be honest, I have done zero preparations.
My number one fear about retirement is the future. 20 years from now. I just want enough money to be able to live.
The whole purpose of money is to give yourself a better life. Not just for your money to pay your bills, but to reduce an amount of anxiety and uncertainty that you have in your life so that you can actually enjoy these years that you probably spent decades building up for.
To get your free link to the movie, text the word movie to 800-454-1184. That's movie, 800-454-1184.
Investment advisory and insurance services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., an SEC registered investment advisor. Hi there. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. He's president of Heckman Financial, and boy, does he get questions all the time about retirement and finances, anything going on in the news. And so today we're going to address some of those questions right here on our show. We're going to get into our Wealth Creator mailbag. So I know you get this all the time when you're not working, don't you, Eric?
Oh, yeah. People always want to ask you something, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into it. Our first question is from Rich. He says, I feel really stuck when it comes to financial decisions. I don't like the idea of missing out on ways to make a good profit, but I also worry about losing too much. I don't want to spend my retirement wishing I'd made better decisions. How can you help someone like me? Or can you?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things you really, really want to be doing is definitely lowering that risk level because, the math is very different once you're taking the money out. So, if you survive through the dot-com crash and the 08-09 meltdown, all those things, that's fine. Those didn't affect you, right? They didn't, if you didn't take the money out, you didn't blink, right? You stuck with it. Then you're fine. But if, you're retired, you can't just all of a sudden say, I'm not going to be retired this month. Go get a job for a month while the market's down and then go back out, retire. Right. You can't jump back in and out of it. And especially in Silicon Valley area, if you're over 60, it's pretty hard to get a job. So, so that's one of the things that you have to be really watching for is, okay, where is that money going to come from? Do you have some of that money protected and protected from loss? Because if you don't have some portion of that guaranteed either by a bank, insurance company, or U.S. Treasury, and you have to go take that money out, you might lock those losses in. And yes, when the market comes back up, those other dollars will jump back up. But the money that you spent, it's gone, right? Those shares that you cashed in. So, so you do definitely need to start lowering down the risk and making sure you have a good pot of guaranteed funds. And with rates today, those guarantees are so much better than they used to be. So, there's still some great opportunities out there. So, definitely. I would look at a lot more of the insurance products that have some really great guarantees. They're right now the highest interest rates. So, definitely it's not something that you have to give up on and earn less. You can still earn some pretty good money, but also have yourself protected so you don't freak out quite as much.
Yes, exactly. And if you want more on this, then certainly give Eric and our team a call at 800-454-1184, 800-454-1184. All right, we're digging into our Wealth Creator mailbag. Next question comes from Al. It's also asking about risk. What could be the least risky place for my retirement savings? I don't want to lose a dime.
Yeah, if you want to be 100% guaranteed, it can be done. It's just tougher, right? Long term because of inflation, will eat up a lot of your spending power over the years. But of course, banks, but banks typically, you're just talking about CDs. Yeah, you get the renewal risk there of, when they come due, what's the rates then? If the rates have dropped over that time frame, right now you're earning less and less. I remember when I first started in business a long time ago, back in the 90s, that was right when we had come down from the last high interest rate, environment. And this one guy said he was in his late 70s when I was talking to him, but he had, he purposely started Social Security at 62 because he was getting 8% on his CDs. And then guess what happened, right? Those interest rates went whoosh, just straight down. And he really regretted how early he took his Social Security because he got so much less money over all those years. And, he based that whole entire decision on kind of one snapshot in time, what the interest rates were there. And we were still coming down off of the record highs of the 80s. We hadn't kind of quite gotten all the way down. And then if you think about it, after I talked to him, they got even worse. I mean, they went down to the, under 2% and 3% range. So big difference, if you're doing that. So, you have to always be looking, you always have to be paying attention to this stuff. Insurance companies, they have ones that are indexing with the market. So if the market does great, you can lock in some great earnings. If the market tanks, you don't lose a dime and you can still take that money out where it was at that same value it was before. So there are some ways to do it. It just takes a little bit more focus. And, it's not something you can just set it and forget it. You do have to pay attention and, when those things come due again.
Yeah. Eric, tell us about your toolbox, because I want people to be aware it's not really a toolbox, digital, but it includes the book that you've written, and it talks about the whole entire plan. Like you just said, you can't just take a snapshot of one thing and make your decision on your entire retirement. So tell us about that and how they can get that.
Yeah. So it's super simple. They just have to text word toolbox, to 800-454-1184. And inside there, you're going to have some really quick reads, things like, will my money last as long as I do? Kind of something I was almost just talking about.
Yeah.
Social Security timing decision, definitely a big one. There's, like you said, a copy of the book, Worry Less Wealth, a digital copy. And then you can also set a time to talk to me and my team. So all you have to do, again, is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Or online, just click the link below.
All right. And we thank you so much for spending part of your day with us today. So happy to have you along. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and this is Wealth Creator Radio. We want you to be able to create wealth in retirement, and that's what Eric and his team are all about. So we're digging into our Wealth Creator mailbag right now. Next question comes from Josh. And he says, I want to leave something for my kids and my grandkids, but I don't want to sacrifice my whole retirement to do that. How can I figure out how much I can afford to leave them, but then still have enough to do some of the things I've been looking forward to doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that I think most people kind of just forget about, I guess the lack of a better term is if you've got that house, you're going to leave them the house, right? I mean, it's really hard to take that with you. Right. Unless and unless you're renting or something, but if you own the house, even if the mortgage isn't paid off, they still get, what's left over. Right. So I would spend the rest of the money. I mean, there's so many people who, I see that they have they live at a lower standard of living. They sacrifice, they do all this stuff pretty much so their kids can go buy a car. Right. Because that's usually about the first thing that people use with inheritance.
Yeah.
It's nice to leave money behind. It's nice to be able to help out, and you can also specify dollar amounts too. Like if you want to make sure, like say the grandkids get so much and then the kids get what's left over, you can say, okay, these grandkids all get, whatever the dollar amount is, 10,000, right. 20,000, some dollar amount. And then the rest of the percentages would go to your kids. And so it's easy to set that up, but I would not sacrifice your standard of living and give up on life yourself, because you want to be able to have fun, enjoy it. You worked a long time for this, right? So we want to go off and make sure you enjoy what you're doing.
Right. And then most likely the grandkids are going to get something from their own parents. So, think about that. Okay. I think we have time for one last question. This is from Janice. And she says, if I'm already retired, do I still need life insurance? I can save some money if I didn't have to pay for the premium anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Sometimes you don't maybe necessarily need it. So should you cancel it? What should you do with it? Sometimes if you cancel it, you might have a taxable gain if there's cash value in there. So you might not want to do that. One thing we've been pretty successful on is since insurance rates have gone down and down and down over the years as people live longer, a lot of times you can take those old policies, roll them to a new one that has no more payments and get actually more death benefit. And more importantly, often you can get some long-term care benefits added to that new policy. So,
right.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that you want to take a little bit of time to research and look at and, reach out to us. We can actually help you with that and get the numbers. And it's a little bit of a process because you have to get the old numbers from the current company and get new ones. But, I'd say about 2/3 of the time it actually works out better for the people, and then no more payments and better benefits. Hey, that all works. Everybody wins. So, definitely something to look at. So again, if you want to get a hold of us or if you want to get a copy of that digital toolbox, just text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi there. So happy you're with us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman, and we have come to a part of our show that I absolutely love. It's story time with Eric. Today, it's going to be a wealth success story. And this is, something where it's a really good example of something that has happened to people and it's worked out for the best. And it's always great to learn from retirees who've been there and done that. And Eric, you see this every day. In fact, oh my gosh, you've done this for 30 years. So you've seen everything. So what wealth success story do you have for us today?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's just a couple common principles, that always ring true. And it's one of those annoying things, but, right. It's like, shouldn't there be an easier, faster way, right? Shouldn't there be, some way where you just get it all, and, but no, I mean, I was just meeting with a couple who's 78 and 73, and they lived here for a long time in the Valley. When they went to go, move houses, they kept their old house, and, that one's been a rental ever since. So that one's now paid off. They've paid off their other house now. And when, of course, that happened, they were able to, save even more. Did good with the stock market and all that. And now the crazy part is they're making more money than they've ever made in their lifetime, because now, he's been doing that required minimum distribution since 70 and a half, because he was under the old rules. Right. She just turned 73 last year. So now she's got to take out her RMDs. And so last year, they were over 300 grand of income, which was crazy. And a third of that was all from their retirement accounts, because their retirement accounts have gotten so big. And so, I always kind of jokingly say it's better to have a tax problem than a no money problem. But,
true.
But it is, it is tough when all of a sudden you're in an insane tax bracket and, in your mid 70s. And now he's regretting, though, that, maybe he should have been doing some more Roth planning. He should have been looking at some of this stuff, years ago, because he didn't think he needed an advisor. He didn't think he needed all this stuff. And now, he's just getting clobbered. And so now, it's really tough. But, I see this quite often with a lot of retirees where, they did do the stuff, the money built up, they kept saving, they weren't out, weren't going crazy and spending too much money and stuff. And, even though it sounds painful when you first buy that house and it's so expensive, but, lots of times you just, after a while it gets to be okay and you're fine. And so, that's, it's worked well for a lot of people, but then, you've ended up with a tax problem instead of a, running out of money problem, which is obviously better. But, you do need to have that plan.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, the end of the story is that, at least now we're trying to figure out how to minimize the taxes, how to minimize at least the taxable side of the money. So that way that doesn't cause more taxes as they take out more RMDs. And, there's a lot of things that we can still do, but, would have been better to do it a long time ago. So
yes.
Yeah. Even, if you have less money, higher money, whatever money, I think it still always makes sense to talk to somebody in that retirement zone. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word Toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.